Hello. I want the name of this medley. My husband just downloaded a lot of mashups for me on. Where is this now? I'm guessing it's on Apple, but I'm not sure. I don't know, it says Atif mashup. I don't know if you can see this one. Atif mashup. What I'll do is I'll just take a picture of it and then I'll share it in my stories. Should I do that? Love the lashes. Ooh, I know it's some filter. My ashes are actually not like that. See, can you see how the ashes are showing? Actually, I don't have such gorgeous lashes. Okay, let's see who all are in this room. Kathan, Lovely Gupta, Lavanya, Hansel, Prachi, Shailendra, Vaishali, Harshita, Mona, Neelam, Gopani. Hi, my darling. Namu 7, Vaishali, Wallet-wise mom. What a vibrant personality. That's so sweet of you, Namu. Shreya, how to know if a man is loyal? I have the most, easy test on loyalty as far as a man is concerned, which is called, I call it the 4 words, okay, which is show me your phone, okay. You can't have an affair without the phone. So if your man has too many passwords on it, or he takes his phone here, there, everywhere, he carries it to the bathroom, he never leaves it for you to be able to see, those are great signs to know that there's something up, okay. Now the woman has a 6th sense, so I feel like the fact that you're asking this question itself tells me there is beep beep light going off, right? So you have to ask yourself what's making you ask this question, and whatever is making you ask this question, that's how you need to start to think now that what do I need to do to find out. So phone, you cannot have an affair these days without the phone. So I feel like being able to access each other's phone as a code of honor between the couple is one of the easiest ways to bring in loyalty into the relationship. Yeah. Anything else that comes to my mind? My suggestion would be follow Esther Perel. There is a lot of work she has done on cheating in general and has lots of good and great suggestions on the entire topic of affairs and cheating and loyalty. This is her topic. So Esther Perel is the lady's name. Achieve with Anu Singh. Love you, goddess. Love you, darling. Mona saying, as usual, you're looking your best. Oi, what happened to my... what happened to my thing? No, I don't want this filter. I don't want this filter. Okay, something happened to the filter. Yeah, we can live with... Should we live with this one? Okay, I think this is okay, right? Oh, the eyelashes are gone. What's the secret to happiness? So Vaishali, I don't know if I know the secret to happiness, but I did go for 3 days for spending at the monastery in Nepal, where we did meet the happiest man on the planet. And I think one of the things that he spoke about which really touched my heart was this concept of impermanence. So it's a part of the Buddha concept, which is that life every morning is changing, just like every plant, everything in nature, everything in weather, everything is changing. And once you start to accept that every single day is a new day with new changes, then learning to accept and not hold on to the life that we've created, rather than start to flow with, let's look at what's going to happen today and how am I going to deal with it. What's going to be the new set of challenges that will get thrown at me? What if instead of worrying about something will change, we start to look at life as a permanent or constant state of change? And that no change is good or bad apart from the meaning we give it. So what if we start to believe that every change is happening for our greater good? I don't know if it's true or not, but what if we start to believe? Because remember, we are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy in our life. Whatever we believe eventually becomes our truth. If that is true, then imagine when anything goes wrong, you start to go, what if I don't understand it right now, but God is doing this for my greater good? How would you then deal with everything in life? And it just becomes so much easier to face the challenges of life. And I'm not saying don't take your time to recover from or grieve about the things that you're losing, but you also have to do that in the same energy. Rather than thinking, why me, God? You start to go, okay, so today has been a bad day. You're accepting of the truth that, I did not enjoy my day. But what if there was the greatest lessons of my life today that I need to learn for me to receive the biggest gift of my life? So can you see how you are going on refiltering the process of removing whatever rubbish our monkey mind keeps jumping and doing, and start to give it better meaning, better meaning, better meaning. April month was in particular a very hard month for me, and I literally passed or flowed through that month without feeling any stress, without feeling any anger, without feeling, I won't say any anger, but much anger, much upset. I was barely all of that for maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes per day. Because I had come back from the monastery, the impact it had on me was that, you know what, Pooja, every day, every new change is taking you towards your biggest dreams. And now that I've associated every challenge as a journey towards my biggest dreams, the bigger the challenge, the faster I'm going to reach my destination. Can you see how it's all a mind game? Happiness is a mind game. All right. Shalini is asking, what is your opinion on star seeds? I don't know enough about it, but I believe in aliens, I believe in other cosmoses, I believe in other parallel universes. So therefore, I also believe in star seeds, that I'm pretty sure all of that exists. And there are people who can understand the different realms of this universe. And there are people who do not have any idea that there are other realms that exist. And I think it's all a conversation between it. I don't think I'm a believer to the extent that I would change anything in my life because of it. But I just feel like, you know what, there's so much more in this universe than what we actually understand. Until all of it starts to become more and more clearer, I just enjoy believing in all of these other realm thoughts and ideas. Oh, the lashes went. How to deal with the narcissistic family members? You know what? Narcissists are basically people who convince you that whatever they do, right or wrong, it is because of you. Okay, and the more we explain, the more we justify, the more we question that had I done this differently, maybe this outcome wouldn't have happened. Had I done this differently, you've tried every different way, and yet you're still wondering if there was anything else you could have done to make this situation or outcome different. Now, to that, I always say the one thing narcissists don't know how to handle is to be ignored. For someone to focus so much on their own life that this other family member does stop mattering to you. They do not like to be ignored. They love the drama because they win every drama, and they want you to participate because it gives them the high of life. And when we are not willing to participate, when we start to ignore them, when we stop getting hurt by their hurt, and when we stop giving them the fuel to be able to impact us, our moods, our life, we have overcome the ability then to, for them to have any impact on us. And I'm going to challenge you that, see if you can try this. Sangeeta, when your siblings hurt you, how to deal with it? So Sangeeta, siblings is the longest relationship we have in our life. We know them from a very, very young age, rather maybe from our birth for some of us, till our dying day. So it is pretty much the longest relationship that we'll end up having. Having said that, when the relationship is that long, be prepared that there is going to be ups and downs. So siblings' ups and downs should not be taken too seriously. You know why I say this? Because I feel like it's a journey and we pass through different seasons. So when you get hurt by a sibling, see if you can stretch yourself to either give it some time. Sometimes all it needs is time. Sibling relationships definitely heal with time. If both the people at some point start to go, you know what, the relationship is more important than the problem. Okay? Or you can start to work on forgiveness right from the very beginning. That you know what, he's hurt me, what was my expectation? Or she's hurt me, what was my expectation? And a lot of times when we change our expectations, when we accept the person as a whole, knowing that this is a problem with them that they are not capable of solving for me, then it becomes much easier to deal with such people. So I always say that whenever dealing with a sibling, look at what is it that you already knew about the person, but you choose to try to change him or her. You chose to try to change him and her because you actually inside your heart knew the kind of person he or she is. It's been revealed to you not once, twice, but many, many times. And when you decide to say, you know what, actually I'm not going to keep this expectation. I'm not going to allow this person to be able to disappoint me. I am just going to love this relationship because of the relationship that we have. I will not have, because it's the expectations in the sibling relationship that actually ruin everything. Now, this relationship is one of those relationships that can totally grow on love. You don't need to grow it on expectations. You expect from the people that you are investing in outside of this relationship, and in this relationship bring love, because the one person who might land up having your back is your sibling. So I'm a big investor in sibling, and my husband is a big investor in his siblings, and we do try our level best to reduce as much expectation and tried our best to be the giver in that relationship. And if every single person becomes a giver, his brothers become a giver to him, he becomes a giver to his brothers, I become a giver. When everybody starts to become a giver, it becomes so beautiful. But somebody has to break the vicious cycle of expectation and become the giver long enough that the other chooses to give back. Okay, and the other may not choose to give back also. So I think this is one of those relationships where we have to grow the size of our heart, knowing that at the end of the day, we are there for each other, because beyond friends, beyond all other relationships, this is the relationship that can truly survive the test of time. Now, having said that, I always say be a little careful about money and siblings. So whenever there is money involved in siblings, see if you can choose the sibling over money, then you're fine. But a lot of us tend to choose money over the sibling, whether it is unfairness or whatever reason, or the will or the whatever. There it can get very, very complicated. And if someone or something has gone wrong in regard to money, then you're going to have to just rework again that particular expectation. Okay? They'll say with Parul is saying, ma'am, I write on my birthday 100 gratitudes and a love letter to myself inspired by you. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you, darling. And I'm so happy, Parul, that you do that. That is such a beautiful gift to give yourself, actually. Most people won't realize the level of profoundness of this activity that you're doing. But the fact that you're doing it makes me so proud. Happy Soul 123. Do part karmas make your current life bad? Is it possible to change it? Part karmas. I don't know what part karmas mean, but I'll tell you my relationship with karma. Okay, so this is what I believe. We have two sets of destinies. Okay, one set of destiny is all of the debt that we owe people and that people owe us. Okay, so in all of our past lives, karma means that you are going through many lives. Okay, so if you believe in karma, you must believe also in many lives. And when you believe in many lives, the concept is that There were people who did things for you that you couldn't pay back in your previous life, and there are things you've done for people that they haven't paid you back. So you are in what we call the karmic cycle. That is one destiny that you can keep on repaying and getting repaid for whatever it is that is owed to you, or that is something you owe. Okay, this is where all of the drama of life lives. Okay, so this is your karmic line, and then you have just above that what we call the dharmic line. Okay, and at the dharmic line level, now you have become the creator of your life rather than the liver. Who says that? What's that guy's name? Ori. Ori says liver of my life. He's a liver. So Ori says, so instead of being the liver of your life, you become the creator of your life. When you start to create, which means every single day you wake up towards a mission higher and beyond you, where you start to contribute to the world, where you start to get connected to your soul's purpose, to your passions, to your highest mission, to you call it whatever you want. I call that the dharmic line. And what happens is, the minute you start walking the dharmic line, it's like now you are the bank. You do not have to pay or get repaid by anybody. Your bank has become God. So the relationship that you've developed is with God rather than with the people. So one way to live life is to keep on repaying the people and getting paid by the people. One way is to get out of all of that karmic debt and move into the energy of the Godji being your bank. When that happens, what happens is, let's say somebody or something wrong happens to you. Your job is to look up at God and say, the life I'm living, I need your support. So you make a trade-off or a barter with God that anything unfair that happens to you in the physical plane, which is the earth plane, needs to be compensated by God in ways of luck, in ways of serendipity, in ways of synchronization towards your highest mission. So you will start to come into what I call the miracle zone. So karma lives in the victim zone. This is where you are mostly playing the victim card, while dharmic line is where you live in the miracle zone, because whenever something goes wrong, you can be rest assured. You know how when we live in nazar, when we live in the concept of nazar in the karmic line, every time something goes right, something good happens, we start to anticipate that something wrong is going to happen now because nazar lagti hai. Okay. Now in the dharmic line, the beauty is that anytime something goes wrong, now you know that something amazing is going to happen. Okay, and while we don't have a word for it right now, like how we have nazar as a word currently, I want to be able to create a word. Let's think of something. So nazar is eyes, nazar lagti hai. Give me some word, no, for this concept that once you start to work in the dharmic world or the dharmic line, then anytime anything goes wrong, you actually have a big smile on your face, because you know God has to now return this to you in 10x in goodness, in 10x in luck, 10x in this thing. And once you start to operate instead of nazar in, let's call it fazar for now, just for the sake of a name. I will look at the comment box soon. So when you are in fazar, luck keeps coming. When you are in nazar, every good thing is scary. When you are in fazar, every bad thing becomes enjoyable. How many of you understood this concept? If you got it, put got it in the chat box. Blessings mil gayi. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, sure. So we'll just, out of the sake of understanding the concept, we'll do nazar and fazar, just because I just feel like, so next time anything goes wrong in your life, just start to go, if you are living the life of your highest purpose, just know that fazar lag gayi. Fazar is, that means कि जो भी बुरा होना था वो टल गया, वो हो गया, और अब सिर्फ अच्छा ही अच्छा होगा, अच्छा ही अच्छा होगा. And when you start to operate from the energy of fazar, nazar लग ही नहीं सकती. Oh, such lovely names. Dua, I love Dua's name. Asar lag gayi. I love that also. Asar. Oh, that's so cool, Aradhana. Blessings lag gayi. Yeah, you decide a name, but I want you to just make sure that you have this understanding. So cute. Kapoor Sakshi is asking, what are the traits of a courageous woman? I keep questioning myself as I am not good at decision making. You know, Sakshi, for life, for you to become courageous in life, you have to start to take small risks and accomplish them. Okay? And the more you take these small risks and accomplish, you start to build what I call your commitment muscle. And your commitment muscle is where all of your confidence and courage lives. So if you really want to live a courageous life, every day I would love for you to make a lot more decisions. Now, the concept of decision making that comes to me right now is that the good decision making happens from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. Good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. So I'll tell you what I do with my courses. When I'm launching a course, when it becomes 60-70% ripe like a mango, I launch it. Okay? And then as I launch it and I take live relevant people through the course, I keep taking feedback the whole day or the whole 2 days that I will be doing the event, right? And as I keep taking feedback, I keep tweaking and making my course better and better and better and better. Okay? Now this takes courage. Courage to not be a perfectionist, courage to be okay to be judged, courage that it can fail, courage that all of this is sitting in courage. So I'd love to ask you, where in your life do you need courage? Because can I tell you, the first time you will do it, you will not do it out of courage, you will do it out of fear only. Okay, so fear travels with you when you want to become a courageous person. It is every single day allowing for fear to sit right next to you and yet taking the action or making the decisions. If you are thinking a day will come where you will wake up and you will be a courageous woman without any fear, it doesn't work like that. It's not that you can get rid of fear. It is that you've accepted fear as two sides. Courage and fear are two sides of the same coin. And there will be days you will wake up with this side of the coin, and there will be days when you wake up with this side of the coin. And it doesn't matter which side you wake up, you will always have a choice to choose the courageous path. And can I tell you, the dharmic path of life is basically the courageous path of life. And the karmic path of life is actually not the courageous path of life, or the one where you can take it easy, or you develop fear, or sit in doubt, or all of those things that courageous women don't do. Okay? And if you ever come for my sessions, the one thing I will challenge you is that between you and me, maybe you are smarter, maybe you're more intelligent, maybe you're prettier, maybe you're more educated, maybe you're richer, maybe you are... My challenge to you is, you're not more courageous than me. The day you get more courageous than me, you will get more successful than me. So if you really want success in life, to every single one of you who's in this room today, I'm going to challenge you to become a lot more courageous, because it is courage that leads you to success. Apart from all of the other talents that we have, talent plus courage only opens up the doors of success. Just talent alone, not good enough. Niharika, I'm observing that I'm constantly in an anxious mode, wanting to control every aspect according to what I want, and somehow I want immediate results. Also, how to handle the disappointments. So Niharika, all of these are just symptoms or desire or what do you call that? Outcomes of you living in your masculine energy. These are all masculine energy concepts. When you start to want to control every part of your life, just know you have forgotten that there is a co-creator. So I'm going to ask you to take a step back, do a lot of deep breathing, and enter into what we call the faith and surrender mode. Now, if you don't know how to enter the faith and surrender mode, please join the awakening program that I offer every month, because that's one program that takes you through the 4 weeks. Just spend 1 month with me and allow me to shift your masculine energy to the divine feminine. Okay, in the masculine energy, it's all about wanting to control life. Okay, The feminine energy is all about living in anxiety because you are not being able to control life. It's the divine feminine energy where you start to align yourself to the universe, where you understand that you co-create your life with God. So you have to sow the seeds. He has to grow the seeds. He's not going to come down to grow the seeds, and you cannot grow the seeds. He's not going to come down to sow the seeds, and you're not going to be able to grow your seeds. So there are parts that the universe has to do, and there are parts that we have to do. And anytime in life we start to want to control what the universe does is when we start to move into anxiety. So ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve, or what is it that I want to do, or what is it that I'm feeling anxiety about, and split it into the things that are in my control and the things that I need to pray for. Okay, things that are in my control, things that I need to pray for, and then build that as your activity. So instead of being anxious, I'd love for you to build in prayer. You know, every time you're feeling anxiety, is there a mantra you can say? Is there a sacrifice in the physical plane that you can make that you will get rewarded in the spiritual plane? Now, if you belong to any religion, every single religion has a system of sacrifice. What is called the system of sacrifice? You can fast, you can give up something you love, whether it is the Ramadan, or it is the Lent, or it is the Jain fast, or it is in the Hindu fasts. You see which religion you belong to and use it to your advantage by understanding that whenever you will make a sacrifice in the materialistic plane, which is the physical plane, you will get rewarded in the spiritual plane, which means God can hear you more loudly. The universe starts to understand that this is of importance to you. And what happens is then every day you start to give it that energy that it deserves. And then when you start to believe that by my giving up, this will come to me, it starts to build that belief or that power in you to be able to patiently wait. And patience is one of the key words this month that we are using even in my Sisterverse community, because too many of us are doing a lot, but we are all the time hammering ourselves because we are feeling but it's not enough. And when you operate from the energy of it's not enough, it starts to run away from you all that you want to manifest. When you start to operate from the energy, मैंने अपना कर लिया, अब भगवान जी आप अपना करिए, that energy is so much more calming, so much more relaxing. So see how you can now start to work towards really understanding that, you know what, the more calmer my energy, the clarity, first you need to have clarity, that is step one. Second, you have to have emotional elevation, which means you need to keep yourself a little more positive. And lastly, you need to ensure that you have patience. You build time into your manifestation. That, you know what I want, I will decide, God ji, whatever, when you give it to me, you can decide. What I want, I will decide. When you give it to me, you can decide. And when you start to co-depend with this co-creator, life becomes so much easier. You know, now for all of this to happen, you have to build faith in something that strongly, and faith takes time. Faith needs tests. You need to test your faith every now and then and let it succeed. And every time it will succeed, it will keep growing stronger and stronger. So start with the small things, but build it. And over the years, it will become so strong at one point where you will start to feel, even when you have the thought, it's already communicated to your faith. You don't even have to say it out loud. Got it? Also, how to handle disappointments. I think make a list of what is it or what is the best reaction. So rather than reaction, what is the best response? When we don't know how to handle disappointments, we react. When we learn how to handle our disappointments, we respond. And I always say this, you always have an option of reaction and response. I would love for you to always make a list that this is my expectation. If it doesn't happen, this will be my reaction. For example, this is Niharika's reaction. And then if you come for my awakening program, you'll know I always make you create a Niharika 2.0 version, which is the angel version of Niharika. And if Niharika, the angel, needed to respond to this situation, this is what she would do. And in the beginning, you'll have to get very conscious of choosing the angel response, the angel response, the angel response, till a time comes on the journey where angel response becomes your default mode, becomes your autopilot, becomes the old ordinary Niharika somewhere along the way disappears or evaporates because the angel Niharika has become so strong. Okay? So I really want to help you, sweetheart. Do think of or plan to join Awakening. It will really help you. Oh, such beautiful words all of you are using. Sabra, patience, Ashirvad. So nice. Shukra, Shukar, yes. Do you take tarot cards and astrology seriously? I love astrology. I love tarot cards. I love crystals. I love Vastu. I love Feng Shui. I love all of these realms because I truly believe they exist. I just don't very quickly believe the interpreters. So I wait to find the right interpreters of this beautiful science beyond borders or beyond what we can see, right? And I always base 20% of my energy on all of this, and 80% of my energy comes from the space of knowing that anything that I decide to change or choose to have differently, I can create. That God's number one gift to the humankind has been the ability to make our own choices. That nothing in the world is there that cannot be changed. Even if you speak to an astrologer, he'll say, ये temple चले जाओ, आपकी किस्मत बदल जाएगी, ये यज्ञ कर लो, ये अंगूठी पहन लो, ये. So even they know destiny is changeable. Okay, so pretty much even tarot card is like that. All of these things are where you can change your destiny. Now, can I tell you the number one way of changing your destiny is your willpower. Through your will, you can change anything in your life. That means you are stronger than anything. I want you to imagine all of these as currents in the water. There are times when you can use the current to flow with where you are going. Those are the good predictions of your life. Okay? And then there are some times where you're swimming against the current. Now, is it possible to swim against the current? 100%. You can swim against the current, and once you decide you're going to swim against the current, you can make that happen and you can be more powerful than everything. Okay? This is what I want you to believe, that you can be more powerful, and then you will see your power springing out of you. Okay? Now that's when the current is flowing against you is when people who believe in bad timing or anything bad, that's what's happening. But you know what? You may feel a little more exhausted, you may feel a little more troubled, you may have a little more challenges, but nothing in these predictions is fatal. Okay? They all are like red lights on a road. Nothing that you can't cross. It may stop you, it may slow you, but it cannot destroy you. Once you understand that, then you have never to worry about any prediction made on you. Okay, so if someone makes a prediction on me that I don't like, I just smile. Which means, let me show you, these things don't work on me. My energy is way superior to any prediction that you can make on me. I can outbeat any prediction on me. Okay, and that's the confidence I want each one of you to live with, because that's the confidence God has given us. If He wanted us to have predestined lives, you would have been a lion and I would have been a zebra. But you know what is the one thing that's different between a lion, zebra and us is that they cannot choose to be veg, non-veg, or which country they should live in, or how they should live, or who are their friends. It's all predestined. We have the ability to choose anything in our life. You want to be a vegetarian, a vegan, a pescatarian, an eggitarian, a non-vegetarian, a freaking cannibal? It's your choice. Can a lion choose to be vegetarian? Unfortunately not, or fortunately not. I don't know. Yeah? So if you once understand this whole science, use the science to your advantage. But never get stuck in fear if anybody, because there are so many scamsters in this profession who try to, with fear, they'll come to your house, they'll break an egg, उसमें से बाल निकलेंगे, and they'll say इस घर में तो इतनी नेगेटिविटी है कि आपको तो 10,000 रुपए देने पड़ेंगे, मैं ये पूजा कराऊंगा, मैं वो पूजा कराऊंगा, and then they take you for a ride until the time they totally squeeze you out and you feel like such a fool that how did you allow yourself to be fooled this badly. But that's the thing, and that's the problem when you start to use an interpreter for your own faith. God has given each one of us the ability to directly connect with him or her. We don't need no one to interpret for us. You want to use some Gyani Vidwan person for interpretation, use. But never forget that you also have a direct channel. So you can directly deal with whatever they predict. In case the prediction is wrong, just put it in the dustbin. That's how amazingly capable you are. No, I know I'm giving a rather long answer to an easy question, but I'm so worried for the people who get into the traps of the people who are sitting there to use religion, God, and all other amazing things that were built to serve us against us only. Sushmita, all of a sudden my husband is telling my brother-in-law will stay with us from now on, and I am so uncomfortable, can't even walk around the house comfortably, can't do workout because we live in a small flat. Sushmita, the thing is that in India, we don't marry men, we marry their families. Until that is true, these are the kind of things that we are going to have to readjust with. Now, it's your man's job to make you more comfortable and to help you come up with a plan of all of the list. If you can make a list of all of the discomforts that you are going to experience because of him living with you, then you see if you can sit down and create compensations for it. For example, now that we have no privacy over a meal, it's your job to make sure once a week we go on a date. Now that I can't work out at home, I would like to join the gym, and guess who's going to be paying for it? You, my sweetheart. So like that, you need to sit down and get compensated for the sacrifice that is expected from you, rather than all the time nagging him or getting upset about something that he also no longer may have any control over, because I don't know what your setup is and why your brother-in-law is coming to live with you. But in case the house belongs to both of them, or your parents are expecting that, his parents are expecting that to happen, or his relationship with his brother is such where he can't say no, I don't know what's happened. What I know is by putting him against his family, lose him also a lot of times. The love that we desired actually got lost in the process of not being supportive. Rather, on the contrary, these are great opportunities for the couple to come together, and if he by chance feels supported, just know that you are investing into your own future. These are the different ways where you invest, that tomorrow, God forbid, your family or you need anything in life, you have built your relationship rather than broken it over the conversations that we keep having over his family. So if I had to do ever a daughter-in-law orientation, I would really come up with a plan on speaking about how it's so important that the people he loves, we learn to accommodate so that he can experience or feel our love. And in return, please take, rather than all the time grumbling about what he can't change, take from him what he can give you, so that you too, in your own way, don't start to feel bitterness and resentment. Okay? So when we have such conversations, the relationship gets so invested that a time comes that our roots start to grow together. Because at a time when you could have hated or been a complete nuisance, you chose to actually be a support. These are moments in our marriages. The other day I had gotten stuck in Nepal. Those 4 hours that I was stuck at the Delhi airport, Puneet was so fabulous that ever since I've come back so grateful to him for those being available. He was in the middle of a golf game and with 3 other people, and how he supported me through those 4 hours. Such a brilliant guy. Now he could have just said, here is my EA, his secretary's number, and his secretary was anyway doing all of the work, right? But you know what he chose to do? I called him, he called his secretary, and then he called me back, and he chose to remain in the problem rather than saying, sweetheart, I have a golf game going on. Here is the EA's number. Please deal with your problem. You know, it should get sorted in the next 3-4 hours. But he didn't desert me, right? So there are days when in life you will have different problems, and you are in the long run. Let's start to invest into one another, and guess what investment takes? Investment is always inconvenient. Everybody write this down. Investment in other people is always inconvenient. For some of us, we are going to always go for the convenient path. That means we are going to completely keep on being critical or complaining against the inconvenient path, and some of us will become support systems in that inconvenient path, so that someday, and all of us have our days where we need other people, everyone will be available to you because you invested in them by keeping your life inconvenient towards them. How awesome is that? Oh, I'm sorry for the voice change. I have no idea why that happens. Kotabagi Rani, Pooja, how to handle jealousy, like overpowering your importance? I feel jealous if someone else gets more importance than me. So sweet. So Rani, I think one of the concepts that Mel Robbins speaks about is that whenever you feel jealous of someone, just know what you're seeing in them is something you desire for your own life. What if every jealousy was just a indicator of your own desires that you need to work on? You know, I really liked this definition of jealousy when I heard it for the first time, that what if it is just an indicator of something you want, and once it gives you the clarity, then you bless this person, so that when you bless this person, then that jealousy ki jagah, see, when we are critical of something, it goes away because it thinks we are thinking negative towards it. When we bless the person, it comes back to us like boomerangs. So I call blessings boomerangs. That means anything you bless will get returned to you. So the next time that you are jealous, firstly, own the jealousy. What do I mean by own the jealousy? We think of jealousy as a inferior word. Like, why are we experiencing this jealousy? Why do I feel jealous of people? No, it could be a desire from your past that you haven't been able to get, or it is something that you desire from your future. So it's a great question to ask yourself, where in my life did I miss the bus, or how can I get this? And if it is something you've already missed, then whenever you feel jealous, be happy for the person who actually did get it. The only thing important that you have to do, Rani, is to start to shift your energy to start to bless or be happy for the person whom against you're feeling jealous. Because 90% of the time when we feel jealous of someone, we feel negative towards them. That's the unevolved way to be. Okay? Now we have an evolved way to be, which means the other day someone was asking me a question that, Pooja, every time I see my sister-in-law with her mother, this lady didn't have a mother, I feel jealous of the relationship they share because I don't have it. So in return, I told her, every time I see a woman with 3 children, I feel jealous because I always wanted 5. Okay? Now, when I feel jealous of someone having 3 children, I don't start to wish them bad. I'm happy they have 3 children. I wish I had 3 children. That's all. Okay? Now, if I feel jealous, what is it? It is my soul telling me that was something I desired that I didn't work on. That was something I desired. Okay, do I still want it? Now I don't want it. So it's a past desire. I may still feel jealous, but I don't need to work on it. Sometimes I will see something. Okay, let's say I see someone having a huge community of a lot of love, something that I want to create, then I'm going to look at them and say, wow, what all they must have done. Okay, so while I will feel the jealousy, I'm also going to bless them and tell God that as I bless them, please boomerang this effect back into my life so that I also receive all of whatever they have, because God is indicating to me this is what I desire. So it's my way of knowing that this is what I desire just because when I feel jealous. So I never look down upon myself when I feel jealous. I don't look at it as an inferior quality that, oh, I have to work on being a more evolved soul for me to not feel jealous. I don't think like that. I rather think that jealousy is feedback. Jealousy is feedback that there is something you are seeing that either you wanted or you still desire. And if it's something I wanted earlier but I can't get it, I bless them. And if it is something that I desire, I will work on it. Can you see how jealousy can totally be managed? So if someone else is getting more importance than you, can I tell you the spiritual law, the law of spirituality says anything you want more of, give more of. You want more love, give more love. You want more respect, give more respect. You want more importance, learn to give more importance. When you give other people more importance, guess what's coming back to you? Importance. So darling, while some of us are going to be waiting for importance, some of us are just going to start to give more to others, therefore they will receive more. Aradhana 43, Pooja, how do I make time in the day to learn new skills? Aradhana, you need to map out every single day of yours for a whole week to see which are your empty slots of or time wasters, as we like to call it. So if you have any time wasters in the day, those are the perfect moments to upgrade your skill set. Now, if you do not discover time wasters, which pretty much all of us actually have, we just haven't noticed it, then waking up 30 minutes to 45 minutes to 1 hour earlier every day is extremely helpful. So for me, all of my skill set learning happens before 8 a.m. 4:30 I get up in the morning, and I'm not asking anybody here in this room to wake up at 4:30, but I wake up at 4:30, and from 4:30 to 8 is my time to work on myself, whether it's my health, whether it's my affirmations, gratitude, skill sets, reading a book, all of that happens in the first half of the morning. Then from 10:30 to 5 o'clock is delivery time, and then after 5 o'clock it's my rest period. It's my time to binge watch whatever I like. It's the brain switch off, go be with friends, go out, go for a walk, whatever I feel like doing. So when you divide your day like that, it's extremely helpful. Now I don't know what all you are responsible for. Some of you may be in a job, some of you may be like, so I don't know enough about your day to be able to help you, but just sit down. A lot of times we will notice that there is a 15-minute slot here and a 15-minute slot here that we are wasting, and that if we start to do a better job of compartmentalizing time boxes, then we will be able to discover a lot of wasted time in the day, and good 2-3 hours sometimes can come out of it, and you'll be like, oh my god, if I just do this in the morning and this in the early morning and this later at night, this 1 hour or 2 hours becomes free, and I can put skill set into that. Okay. Shamika Kachru, giving importance to my husband hasn't really converted into respect for me. What should I do? Sorry, I should have given a disclaimer. The law of spirituality does not talk about you doing it for one person. The law of spirituality talks about it as when you start to give a lot more of it to humanity, to the world. Okay, so it's not to one person. As far as your relationship with your husband is concerned, please come for my Love Lab session that is happening on the 24th of May. I'm going to add the link to the bio. Okay, it's for I think 99 rupees, or for some of you it will also be free. Just check in the link which category you are. I'll also share it in my stories, so I'd love to invite every single one of you. It's called Love Lab, the art and science of relationships. I'd love for you to come for that so that I can go deep into explaining to you. It's about a 2-hour masterclass, and it's got the complete explanation around what is currently happening with our new relationships, what is the difference between romantic love and mature love, what are the 4 biggest, what would I call that, danger signs in a relationship, and how can we learn to fight better. If any of these topics are of interest to you, I'd love to see you on the 24th of May for my program called the Love Lab. Okay, I'm going to guess it's going to be free for all of you, or maximum 99 rupees. I just go to the link in the bio, and I will also share it on my story today. So let me help you. So for all of you who are asking husband-wife questions, the application of husband-wife relationship is not generic. It's every single person is in a unique relationship. So I want to share with you the basic concepts so that you can go deeper with me. Okay? Shakku is asking, I am addicted to my phone. What should I do? Shakku, you're not alone, sweetheart, to break this addiction. Most of us are. So I think it's very important to make it as inconvenient as possible so that you can charge your phone, you can put your charger far away. You can make your phone black and white. So if you see right now, my phone is colored. If I just press this 3 times, it turns black and white. Now, can I tell you, your attention span on a black and white phone, so anytime I'm feeling like I'm getting addicted, for that week, I just turn my phone black and white, okay? Now, the most important thing is to know what else are you going to do. If you're not doing the phone, I can leave my phone. That's not the problem. But if I don't have anything else to do, in 15 minutes, I will end up going back to scroll because it's just so much easier to entertain myself than to educate myself, right? So what is it that you're going to do? Are you a part of any course that you can keep studying and learning and understanding? Are you a part of anything what is it that you're going to do? Are you going to sit and do your gratitude? Are you going to go play with your children? Are you going to spend some quality time with your parents? Are you going to contribute to the kitchen or some new recipe are you going to make? Are you going to beautify your house? We have so much to do. Can I tell you, if I just tell all of you for this week, clutter free your cupboards, that in itself is a job by itself. Would you agree or not? So there's so much to do, but do you have that to-do list? Do you have what you're going to do when? Because we tend to get onto the phone when we are living aimlessly. You bring mission and aim into your life, phone will become so unimportant. Right? So I'd love for you to start to not look at how to get addicted to the phone rather than how to get addicted to the creation of life. How are you going to use your intelligence to contribute to the world? And the day that starts to happen, you never have to worry about any addiction, because all addictions are you numbing yourself from the pain of not contributing at the potential of your soul. So when our soul has potential but we are not contributing to the world with what we have to give, then we have to numb ourselves from that pain, and therefore the smoking, the drinking, the addiction to porn, the addiction to phone, the addiction to shopping, the addiction to time wasting, the addiction to emotional eating, all of these are just us numbing ourselves so that you don't have to think about what actually matters. But the day you start to think about what actually matters, all of these will get sidelined. What is your night ritual to a good sleep without any thoughts? So, Saukya, one of the things that I have learned, and I have learned a lot of activities to put myself to sleep, because there used to be a time 6 months ago where it used to take me almost close to 30 to 40 minutes to go to sleep at night. So from the time I would hit the pillow and close my eyes, 30 to 40 minutes of pure torture, if I may call it, before I would go to sleep. And then I went to Nepal, and this whole year, I've been doing a lot more evening routines, which is really helping me. And the one that has really worked beautifully for me has been the meditation music. So any form of guided visualization, or I love putting piano and the sound of water, piano music, such beautiful sleeping meditations that literally when I put it, in less than 5 to 7 minutes, I'm asleep these days. It's really helped me. In case I get stuck and I'm not getting sleep, I learned this from one of the psychologists on YouTube. She spoke about count till 40 with your eyes closed slowly. Open your eyes mildly, just like sliver of your eyes, and count till 5. Then again keep your eyes closed and count till 40 again. Again open your eyes and count till 5. Normally you will not be having a third rep. Just doing this puts our mind to becoming thoughtless. Okay. Now a lot of people like to count sheep. She said you can add sheep to it if you like, but even just counting has really helped me. So I'll put the meditation music, I'll do this count, and most of the times I'm actually asleep in less than 5 minutes. It's really worked like magic for me. Another thing I've been doing is having a tablet of magnesium every night. Now please check with your doctor. Hello everybody, if you're planning to go on anything oral medication, please do not trust any person. Check with your doctor. But for me, magnesium has really worked well. So magnesium helps women in putting your hormones in balance, and a lot of times because our hormones are jumpy, we don't get sleep. So it's a hormonal issue. So in case anyone in this room is having a hormonal issue, just check with your GP that can I go on a tablet of magnesium. He'll tell you exactly what the strength of it needs to be, and you'll see a huge difference in the quality of your sleep also, and in the quality of your moods also. All right, looks like we have come to the end of today. Thank you so much for coming. I am going to say cheers. You know the drill. All you need to do is take a picture, share with me in the stories what was your biggest takeaway. I'm also going to give the winner, the ones who had shared last time, a gift. One of you is going to get a gift, and let me just open up who was chosen as the winner for this week. You all know what you're going to get? Me speaking about Love Lab. So we are going to be doing something called the Love Bubble online, and you're going to win one ticket of 5,000 rupees if you put my photo along with the what was your biggest takeaway. And you can also land up becoming a winner of the Love Bubble, which is a 3-day program happening in August around how to basically master your relationships. All right. So what is going to be, who's the winner? This week we have Anuradha_mom coach, who has won the Love Bubble online ticket. So massive congratulations to you. Every week I'm going to announce one winner, and the way to win is for you to make sure that you take my picture and share what was it that you learned today. And if we like what you've shared, or we like the way you've done the whole thing, then we are going to share, then we are going to gift you a 5,000 rupee ticket for a 3-day online program that's happening in August. So God bless you. Where do we post your picture? In the stories, and please remember to tag me, Pooja_Puneet. Okay? So share the picture, share the takeaway, and if you don't know how to do it, just wait 2 minutes. Somebody or the other will do it, and then you see them and you do the same. Okay? So all you have to do is take a picture. I'm going to smile in a moment, and then all you need to do is share it in your stories, put your biggest takeaway, and tag me. If you do these 3 things, you are on track to win the program in August. When will it be in August? I'll announce the dates a little closer to time. Mid-August, okay? All right, let's quickly do the picture. What all these animated things start to happen. Love you. Thank you for coming. God bless. Take care. Keep in touch. Bye. Ciao.